looking great big gold ring.
Well, it's been a month for detector repairs. I've just had finished the Excalibur and I've been having issues with my CTX3030 for a couple of months on and off. It's been a very intermittent problem. Some days it wouldn't boot up, other days it would work fine. I've had a couple of times where it wouldn't shut down. I've had to pull the battery on it. Very odd. I've stripped it down a couple of times. Anyway, I've eventually found what the problem is. Inside the detector, between the control box and the interface unit, there's a cable which runs through the handle and into the back of the interface, sorry, into the control box, and the connector, one of the connectors pins on there has corroded. A little bit of moisture has got into the connector and it stripped the gold off the pins. The other issue I've had is occasionally, I don't know if you'll be able to see this with the light, but you can see it. There's, last time I took it apart, there's a black line appearing on the display. I think that's probably just a bad connection on the LCD, because I've opened up the box several times and it's been fine, but the last time I did it, probably the cable just shifted very slightly. It does fade after the detector's been used for a while. So the job is to replace the cable and the connector on the back of the control box. I have the detector apart, in the sense of taking the coil off and separated the main control box from the interface unit. Tools I'll need to open up these two. The main tool is a Torx screwdriver, T10. I've also got a T10 Torx screwdriver, for particularly important when doing up the case. 17mm socket. I may just see if I can get a spanner, but it's for the nut, which has got to come off on the back on there. I have a soldering iron just across there, and that's for soldering on the wires which are on the back of this cable unit. The other cable unit, which goes through, that's the right way, goes through here, that has got a plug-on connector, and I do have a spare LCD display. I am hoping that I don't have to replace this, and that it would just need a cleaning of the contacts on the display, because the nature of the fault, it seems to last for a little while then clears. So I'm hoping it's just a little bit of high resistance on the contacts, which is a ribbon cable, very fine ribbon cable, but I'll wait until I get to that point. Right, the next job to do is to take apart one unit. On the back of this is 9 screws. In this case they're stainless steel, and they need to be undone. So I'll work around and undo those. One thing I did forget, besides the 9 screws around the case, there's 2 additional ones for the stand. The other thing as well, which is very important, there's going to be a lot of grit in the groove between the two halves, and particularly before it goes back together again, it's essential to make sure there's no grains of sand or muck stuck in the seal, otherwise risk losing the integrity of the water seal. Okay, that's all the screws undone. Now you can tease the two parts apart, and you can see, I can see there's a load of sand around the edge there, so we must clear that out. The other thing to be very careful of, the ribbon cable which connects to the power and to the headphone is on the circuit board, and I must separate that. I can't easily show you, but the ribbon cable is held in place by two little clips. Let me just turn this around. There's two clips. Ribbon cable goes in and it's then locked in place by a clamp which goes across the ribbon cables. The waterproof seal is in this groove, and as I've taken it out I can see a lot of grit falling in there, so before I put it back together again I'll make sure that this whole area is cleaned out and the seal is cleaned and washed before putting back in place. Just checking the nut on for the cable. I thought it was 17mm, in fact it's 18mm, so I'm just going to loosen that off. Considering it's turned quite green, it's not bad condition. It's green because it's in the salt seawater all the time. Full of crud. We'll need a good clean up. There's the circuit board. I think it'd probably be best if I undo the other nut as well, which is the one that connects to the coil. It's a little bit stiffer. There we go. That just slips out. And there is the brains of the unit, the GPS signal antenna, and a load of components. And these are the cables that need to be replaced. What's that, about 8 connectors that need to be redone. It looks like I can actually just pop off that top board, and then I can get to the solder connections. There's a standoff just here and a multi-way plug, and that lot should just pull out. Something down inside, I can't really see what it is, but there's some sort of black device. It's not connected to the top board, but it is connected to the middle board. So I'm not sure what the component is, I can't quite identify it. Actually, I think I just have it's a battery holder that's to contain the memory of the device. While I've got this apart, what I'm going to do is just wash the seal now, and also wash out the groove and give that a good clean, so it's fresh for when I put it back together again. While I've got this apart, I'm just going to give this connector a good clean up with a wire brush to make sure there's no crud in the thread, and then it can go back on properly. A little bit of green muck on there. The washer doesn't look too bad. I'll give that a wash as well in a sec, just to make sure. There we go, I think that's got most of it. Right, I need to separate these two boards and have a look at these wires which connect the two. Right, I've just squeezed the clip so it can release the board, and there we go, and there's the battery. There's a couple of standoffs. The battery in there is a CR1220, so 12mm diameter and 2mm thick. I think there's probably only one in there, but without actually removing it, difficult to say. Okay, I'm going to have a look at these wires and make sure I know which one goes in which hole. Make a note of all the colours. There is some small tie wraps which holds the bundle of wires together, so I need to cut those and have a look at the wires in more detail. The wires going from left to right, that's my left to right, we got red, orange, grey, blue, brown, white, green, black. I'll write those down because I'll forget them, and that would be a problem. Okay, what I'm going to do is unsolder one wire at a time and put the new wire in, so it double ensures that I don't get the cables mixed up. I won't bore you with the soldering and unsoldering, but soldering iron, sucker and solder, so let me get to it. Okay, I've done all the soldering. I'm just had a quick look under the eyepiece just to see what's going on there. Just need to clean up the flux, and there's a few little, I can't say splashes, but little filaments of solder on this side, so I need to get, I've got a little brush, but I need to go and get a refill for it. It's a fiberglass pencil which is ideal for removing flux and bits of debris, so I'll go and get a refill for that. Okay, all the soldering is complete. I've cleaned it all up. And I'm now going to put the two circuit boards back together. Oh, and the other thing is I put the ferrite slug back on the circuit board and tie wrapped it in place. So those two halves just go together, and then it should be just a case of pressing down the clip, and there we go. So that's one half of the repair done. What I'm going to do is put this back into the module once that's dry, and test it and make sure that everything works before I open up the other half. So if there is a problem, I know where it lies, if it's in the control unit or the interface box there. So I'm going to make sure that is dry, because I give it a good wash out and it's still all wet in there. When I put it back together again, need to make sure that the tags are pointing upwards, so when the cables go in, we know which direction and where they need to locate. While I was just looking at the nuts that go onto the bulkhead of the main control box, it seems that the nuts have a slightly larger flat side one side than the other, so I'm going to put the flat side against the plastic. Hopefully that's around the right way. To take the display apart, you must disassemble it from the shaft and rest assembly. There is a number of screws, 4 there, 3 there and 2 there, before the handle can be split, and then the display can pop out. So let's just remove those. Again, it's the same Torx T10 screw that is used throughout. There probably will be quite a bit of sound inside here. Quite often all the very fine silt builds up in the detector. Gets everywhere. There is a clip, and this display needs to be rocked just to get past the clip. It's important when you actually put it back to here again that this clip is inserted properly. Oh, and there we go, loads of sand. Let's put all the screws in one place. Things to note, there's a rubber guide there, and this cable is looped, and there's the ferrite slug just there, and then inside you've got the small loop. There we go. Well, what I'm going to do is clean this up and move on to the next bit, which is disassembly or the display. These two small screws are slightly smaller, still T10, but they're slightly smaller than the others, and it's the ones around the outside. These four are just for the speaker grill. So I'm going to empty out the sand and give that a clean. I've given everything a clean, desand all the shaft and the rubbers, given that a clean, so that should be a lot better. Before I forget, I'll do the two at the front of the display first. So T10, but smaller in size. Put those across there. On the back here is the clips I was mentioning. Those recess into the handle, and it's important that they clip in properly. Otherwise there's a big gap and the display could possibly wobble. Again, it's very important that everything is kept sand-free, muck-free when it goes, or before it goes back together. Otherwise, any grit in the seal will affect the water integrity of the detector, which would not be good. There we go. Okay, here is everything. I've just got to disconnect the keypad. That just slides in there. Just difficult to show you at the same time as I'm actually doing it, but there we go. just there for the keypad. And again, there's a load of sand which has fallen into the seal area. And there's the display which I need to have a look at. But let me give this a clean first and get back to it. I've just taken the seal out and given it a good wash. One thing to note is one side is flat and the flat side goes into the top cover. Just let that dry. It's had a good wash and it was covered in very fine sand. The next thing I'm pondering is just how to release the cable. It's this piece here is quite solid, and it's I thought there was just a clip going over with a couple of screws, but it looks as though it's actually forced into this recess, and I guess this comes through at an angle, so it that comes into the main body. It's very stiff, and I've just put some release agent on there, just let that soak through for a few minutes. Then hopefully we can remove this bung which is on the old piece. Yeah. Okay, I have the cable out. It was a bit fiddly. I put some release agent on the this bit, and that was able to slide. Then I had a problem with the ferrite bead wouldn't go through, so I just had to bend the one of the pins on the switch very, very slightly so I could just get the right angle, and putting the connector at an angle like this, it all slid out nicely. So I need to clean all that up, and I'll probably put a little bit of silicone grease in there to aid getting the new one in place. I've got the cable now set up through the housing. I've also reseated the cable on the LCD, and that now works properly without the lines which were there. So I'm going to start putting this all back together again very soon, and then we should be ready to put the whole lot back together. Just going to use the torque screwdriver to get the correct tightness now on all the screws. after a bit of jiggling and pushing the cable, there's the cable which comes from the interface unit does a curl round before going down on the channels I showed you. You've got to sort of jiggle it a bit, and then this bit has got to clip into the handle. It's quite easy to have a gap here if it's not clipped in properly. So I need just to put all the screws in. I've put 2 on the handle so far, and just now need to do the rest. Last 4 screws going in. The torque screw I can't get down into the channel, but not to worry. These are not very important as long as they feel tight without going over tight. It's very easy to strip the plastic on the detector if you're not careful. There we go. And that's the detector all back together again, and I've tested it, it all works fine. Thanks for watching, and look forward to seeing you next time.